What are the Charlotte Hornets? For about 3 months this season, they were the one team in the entire league that nobody wanted to see coming.
Nearly mishandled into a turnover. He picks it up, strolls in as if nothing happened, and he hits it.
Since the first day of January, they owned the best offense in basketball. They ripped off a 9-game winning streak, the longest this franchise has put together in a generation. They walked into buildings as underdogs and walked out up 30. And if you were a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a contender who spent all year clawing for position, the very last name you wanted sliding into that play-in bracket was Charlotte. Because they were the unknown, the Dragon Slayer hiding in plain sight. They went from 19 wins to a winning record, from the second worst team in the sport to a top 5 offense. From a punchline the national media stopped covering to a problem nobody had an answer for. And then, right when the whole league was bracing for them, the story took a turn that nobody in Charlotte is going to forget for a very long time.
LaMelo! Yes!
So how did a franchise everybody had already written off become exactly what the NBA feared? And why did it all come apart in a single night? To understand any of it, you have to understand how deep the hole actually went. Charlotte hadn't made the playoffs in 10 years. 10. The longest active drought in the Eastern Conference. And for most of that decade, they lived in the worst place a franchise can live. Not bad enough to land a generational talent. Not good enough to matter. Just there. Just existing. Season after season of the same gray nothing. Last year was the bottom of it. 19 wins, 63 losses.
Brunson turns, Brunson fires away at the buzzer. Oh, that's good! Jalen Brunson!
The second worst record in the entire NBA. And the maddening part wasn't that they were bad, it's that everybody could see the talent sitting right there. LaMelo Ball is one of the most electric players in the league the moment he steps on the floor.
Here comes LaMelo!
The problem was, he was almost never on the floor. Over 3 years, he'd played barely more than 100 games out of a possible 246. Injuries, then setbacks, then more injuries. The flashes were undeniable. So was the pattern. And then there was Brandon Miller, the number 2 overall pick from 2023. The kid people were comparing to Paul George on draft night.
Not in the starting lineup. Acting like a coach right now. Paul George, first basket of the game, number 8.
The year before, he played just 27 games before a wrist injury shut him down. 27. When your 2 cornerstones can't stand on the court at the same time, you're not building anything. You're just waiting and hoping. If you've ever watched your team live in that exact purgatory, you already know the feeling. And this is the part where it starts to change. So do me a favor and hit that like button before we get there. Because when this season tipped off, nothing looked different. Charlotte stumbled out of the gate, losing 14 of their first 18 games, buried at the bottom of the conference by late November. Nobody was surprised. The national conversation wasn't whether they'd make the playoffs. It was how high their lottery pick would land. Another gray season felt inevitable. The league had already moved on. But something was different this time, and almost nobody was paying attention to it. Knueppel, the 4th overall pick out of Duke, was not playing like a rookie. He was producing from the jump.
Most available players over the years. Here's Knueppel. To the rim. He's got 2 layups in his return to Milwaukee.
Shooting, spacing, competing, sliding into the offense like he'd been running it for years. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Brandon Miller was actually staying on the court.
Where he was. All right, this time the line works. Brandon Miller.
Game after game. No setbacks, no minutes restriction. Just playing. The pieces were finally in the same room at the same time. LaMelo, Miller, Knueppel, all healthy, all together. Charlotte was still buried underwater. But if you were watching closely, you could feel something starting to move. And then January hit.
In the play-in right now, they're in the 9th seed. They are finally at 500 for the first time, I think, since Grandmama and Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah.
Like we have not seen.
What happened next is the kind of thing that doesn't really have a comparison. Let me show you what a total transformation looks like in real numbers, because this is the part that stopped people cold. From opening night through the end of December, Charlotte's offense was middle of the pack, and their defense was one of the 5 worst in the league. A below-average team by every measure you could pull up. Then the calendar flipped to the 2nd of January.
12.9 left. Hornets are down by 3. White, turn around. Oh, yeah!
And from that day forward, they had the best offensive rating in the entire NBA. Not top 5. First, their defense climbed into the top handful of teams in the league. Their net rating became one of the 3 best in all of basketball, sitting right there next to Oklahoma City and Cleveland.
Anderson finds James. Good look, and Anderson gets it to James for the finish.
That's not a hot streak. That's a different team wearing the same jerseys. And the wins started stacking in ways this city hadn't seen in decades. A 9-game winning streak, the longest in the franchise's current era. 5 straight wins by 15 points or more, a run no other team in the entire league matched all season long. They walked into Boston and beat the defending caliber Celtics on their own floor.
Neely, snaking the defense, gets the left-hand layup.
Good bucket, but you need 3.
Double-digit road streak that snapped droughts going back a quarter century. This wasn't padding a record against soft opponents. This was a team announcing itself. And here's what mattered more than the winning. Charlotte found an identity, and it was a nightmare to defend. They became one of the highest volume 3-point teams in the league, and they were knocking them down. They turned into one of the best rebounding teams in the sport.
James, over to McNeely. That is a long-range triple.
First in rebounding percentage over that stretch, punishing you on the glass, and then punishing you again from 30 feet. They stopped playing to survive. They started playing to bury people. And if you needed one game as proof, they hosted Miami with real seeding on the line.
They threw that one in on the way out. Oh, my goodness.
A Miami team that had beaten them just days earlier. And they didn't just win. They ran them off the floor by 30. LaMelo dropped a monster line and crossed 6,000 career points.
Oh, wonderful! Another 3 for the kid!
Turn the corner step.
Knueppel poured in another 20+. They led by 30 in the 4th and never blinked. That's not a team trying to sneak into the play-in. That's a team making a statement. And if a team clawing out of a decade in the dark is the kind of story you're here for, take a second and subscribe, because the how behind this turnaround is even better than the what. But this surge wasn't scheme or luck or an easy schedule. It came down to 3 players who finally figured out how to weaponize each other, and it starts with the rookie. Knueppel came into the league in Cooper Flagg's shadow. At Duke, Flagg got the cameras. Knueppel got overlooked. People saw a shooter. Charlotte saw a cornerstone, and he proved them right in historic fashion. This was one of the best shooting seasons a rookie has ever produced. He set the record as the fastest player in NBA history to make 53s, doing it in his 15th game. Then he became the fastest to 100 career threes, blowing past a record that had stood for years and beating it by 12 full games.
Driver.
Knueppel, welcome to Dallas, a triple!
And he didn't slow down. He shattered the rookie record for 3-pointers in a season, the one Keegan Murray set. And he didn't nudge past it, he lapped it, finishing with 273. He led the entire NBA in made threes. Not the rookies, everyone. The first rookie in league history to ever do that. He and LaMelo Ball both cleared 270 triples on the year, the first pair of teammates to do that since Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. 18.5 points a night on better than 42% from deep. You could not sag off him. You could not lose him for a half second, or he'd bury you. Brandon Miller was always supposed to be this good. The number 2 pick, the Paul George comparisons, all of it. The only question that ever hung over him was whether his body would let him. This season, we got the answer.
There's your first 3-pointer, Brandon Miller!
Good footwork by B. Mill.
Finally healthy, finally on the floor, night after night, he took the leap everybody had been waiting for. 20 a night, leading the team in scoring, and it was the defense that separated him. At 6'7" with that handle and that touch, he could guard 1 through 4 and score from all 3 levels. When he was the guy in front of you, your night got harder. That was the ceiling nobody in Charlotte had gotten to see, because he'd never been on the court long enough to show it. And LaMelo Ball was still the engine, except this year he was running smarter. Fewer shots, more orchestration, letting Knueppel and Miller carry the scoring while he set the table. When he was on the floor, Charlotte's offense was elite. When he sat, it fell off a cliff. And for maybe the first time in his career, the effort showed up on the defensive end too. When your most talented player buys in like that, it sets the tone for everyone behind him. Charlotte didn't just have 3 scorers. They had 3 players who fit like puzzle pieces. But talent alone never explains a change this complete. Somebody has to connect it. Charles Lee was only in his 2nd year as a head coach, but his fingerprints were all over this. He came up as the lead assistant on Boston's 2024 championship team, helping design one of the most efficient offenses in modern basketball. And before that, he spent years inside Milwaukee's contending window. The man has been in winning rooms his whole career, and you could see it in Charlotte. The spacing, the shot selection, the pace. This was the Boston blueprint, rebuilt for Charlotte's personnel. Play fast, move the ball, let your shooters shoot. It's not complicated, it's just efficient. And when your buy-in is real, it holds up. And the buy-in was real. On a road trip back to Milwaukee, Knueppel invited the entire team to his childhood home for dinner. The whole roster, coaches included, packed into the house where he grew up. That's not a rookie thing. That's a leadership thing, from a kid who understood that what happens off the floor shows up on it. LaMelo was more locked in than he'd ever been. Miles Bridges embraced his role. Everybody was pulling the same direction. For a decade, this franchise didn't have that. Now they did, which is what makes what happened next so hard to watch. Because for 3 months, Charlotte was exactly the team the league had been dreading. And then, the play-in arrived, and the story turned. The first game, they did what they'd been doing to everyone.
Game, that's summertime work on display.
Knueppel finds Diabate!
They blew out Miami and punched their ticket to the win and you're in game against Orlando. One game, 10 years of drought on one side, a franchise finally back on the other, and then Orlando happened. It was over almost before it started. The Magic opened on a run and never let go. By halftime, Charlotte was down 31, the largest halftime deficit in the history of the play-in tournament. The offense that had led the entire league for 3 months went cold and stayed cold. Knueppel, the rookie who'd shot his way into the record books, went 1 for 12 from 3 across the play-in. LaMelo scrapped for 23, but most of it came after the game was already gone. When the final buzzer sounded, Charlotte had lost by 31, the worst defeat of their entire season, on the one night they could least afford it. The playoff drought didn't end. It stretched to 10 straight years, the longest active streak in the NBA. The Dragon Slayer got slayed. The fairy tale didn't get its ending. And a few weeks later, one more twist. Knueppel, after a season that rewrote the rookie record book, finished 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting. Cooper Flagg, his old Duke roommate, edged him out in one of the closest votes the award has ever seen. 2 former teammates, 2 completely different seasons, and the kid who led the entire league in threes still walked away without the trophy. If you're a Hornets fan, that stings on top of a bruise that hadn't even started to heal. So was any of it real? That's the question this offseason. And here's the honest answer. Yes. All of it. The turnaround was real. A 25-win improvement. The biggest leap in the league. Their first winning season since 2022. A rookie who led the NBA in made threes. A number 2 pick who finally stayed healthy and looked like a star. A point guard who learned how to make everyone around him better. A coach with a championship pedigree building a real culture from scratch. None of that disappears because one night in April went sideways. If anything, that night is the reason the rest of the league should be more worried, not less. Because this is a young team that got a taste. They found out what they are before anyone expected them to, and then they found out how much further they have to go, all in the same spring. That's the exact recipe that turns a play-in team into a problem. Detroit did it. Oklahoma City did it. Young talent that clicks at the right time, a coach who builds something that lasts, and a front office patient enough to let it grow up. Charlotte is standing on that same road. They aren't a finished product. Nobody's claiming they are, but the foundation is rock solid, and the arrow is pointing straight up. For a decade, the Charlotte Hornets were an afterthought, a team you scheduled a night off against. In 3 months, they tore that entire identity down and showed the league a different version of themselves. The version where LaMelo plays smart, Miller plays healthy, and Knueppel plays like a 5-year vet. The version that stops surviving and starts hunting. They didn't finish the job this time. The gap between what they became and what they're chasing is exactly the size of that 31-point loss in Orlando. But every team that ever became something dangerous has a night like that in its past. A night that stops being a wound and starts being fuel. The Hornets aren't what the NBA feared just yet. They're the warning that comes right before it. And if you're not paying attention now, you're going to be scrambling to catch up when they're the ones hosting playoff games. If you want more stories like this one, where the real story starts long before anybody was paying attention, subscribe to this channel.